Hi everyone, my name is Matteo Vallone and I work in the Google Play Games business element team here in London. So now we're going to talk about one of the most important topics when it comes to running your game as a service, which is what users should you run the service for. And what I mean by that is that if you monetize your game with in-app purchases and the game is free to install, you always face this challenge that on one side you want as many users as possible to come in, download your game, and try it. But on the other side, the more users you have, and the more users you have, the more diverse they will be. You will find casual users, hardcore users together. Some will come for the PvP, some will come for PvE, and some will have a bigger budget to spend, and some will be a bit more concerned about spending. So the wider the funnel, the more difficult it is to please everyone. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next 30 minutes. So first of all, Adam, my colleague who's a game design expert, will talk about the basics of running your game as a service and also some key design principles to make sure that every player, regardless of their profile and what they're looking for, finds value in your game and is engaged. Then Fred from SpaceApe will talk about how they approach monetization for this different cohorts of users. How do they target them and make sure that they extract the LTV that they bring to the game. They've been improving this over time, and so Fred will give you an overview of how all the different steps that they've taken and all the learnings that they acquired in that process, and also give you a sneak peek into what is coming next for them. But SpaceApe wasn't built in a day. It takes time and effort, and so that's why I'm going to come back on stage and talk about some tools that can get you started right away, applying this concept in a very simple way and also free, which is always good. So lots of content, and so Adam, please take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Matteo, for that lovely intro. Thank you, Shannon, for hosting today. And thank you all for coming out to Playtime London. I know it's a gorgeous day in London, so thank you all for spending it with us. Very excited to be here today. This is my second Playtime, second time in London for this, and LTV is one of my favorite subjects, so super stoked to talk to you about it today. As Matteo was mentioning, let's go just through a little bit of the basics when it comes to LTV, just so we can kind of level set before Fred from SpaceApe is going to come up here and give you the master class on it. So let's do LTV 101 for a bit. Know your metrics. All right, what is LTV and why does it matter? LTV simply stands for lifetime value. If you didn't know that, now you do. It's one of the key metrics that everyone looks at when it comes to game development. It's something that you buy against when you're doing your user acquisition campaigns, and it's obviously what you look to when you're trying to monetize your games. This is the absolute value of the average customer in your game. Now, it's a bit different in games as a service, which you often see in mobile, versus what you would ordinarily see in a packaged business that you would see, say, in GameStop or somewhere else. In a packaged games business, you've got a binary outcome. You either have $0 or you have $60 from your customer, one or the other, nothing in between. With games as a service, it's a bit different. There's no barrier to entry. People come in, you know, it's kind of free to download, and then you have this experience where you're providing a service as the player kind of goes through your game. So LTV is not a function of a single price point. LTV is a function of engagement times the value that you offer your customers and the value that they give you back in terms of dollars. So LTV, in this case, for games as a service, is engagement times value. So Fred's going to come up in a minute, talk about value. It's got some amazing slides on it. I'm going to talk about engagement really quickly, just to talk about how do developers kind of drive engagement and think about it and measure it. So let's think about measuring it first. There's a few ways to measure engagement. There's kind of the traditional ways of like session length and sessions per day, and that stickiness factor that you often hear about, daily active users over monthly active users. Hint, that should be at least 15%. But hard retention is one that we look at all the time. D1, D7, D30, absolutely critical. And it's critical for a very, very obvious reason, but I'm going to tell you it just to make sure it sticks and you never forget it. You can't make money from your users, you can't offer them value, and they can't give you value back in terms of their dollars if they're not playing the game. So if your D7 and D30s are low, If players are not sticking around in your game, simply, again, very obviously, you're not going to be able to make money from them. This is why it's absolutely one of the most critical things out there. It's the #1 predictor of success in LTV is retention. Now, what about benchmarks? People ask us this all the time. So, as a platform, we talk to every game developer out there that we can. We look at casual games, we look at mid-core games, we look at core games. And yeah, take pictures of the slide all you want. This is a good one. Retention is paramount, but the benchmarks are absolutely 100% paramount. You could be in this kind of darker area, blue at the bottom, but what you really want to do is be in the sky blue on top, because that's kind of the cream of the crop up there. The best games out there, those are their retention rates. So if you're in the core genre, like, super, super core MMO, something like Hearthstone or something like that, I'm not saying this is their retention rate, but something in that core area, you want to be at least 10%, pushing above that even better. All the way up to casual. I have one developer who's been working on a casual game now, and they will not ship the casual game until their D30 retention rate is 23%, best in class, because they know that retention rate is the key predictor of the lifetime value of their customers and of their game. Absolutely important. Oh, and by the way, we've got tools to help you measure this. Who here uses Play Game Services in their game? Yeah? Do you use the Player Stats API? Some of you do. More of you should. Remember this. Player Stats API will actually help you measure retention. One thing, though, encourage sign-in for your game. Have it in a really good place, because the more people sign in, the more data you're going to get. You want to be pushing 50, 60% sign-in in your game. That way you can actually measure as many people as you can coming through your game. OK, so we've talked about how to measure engagement and retention. Awesome stuff. How do we actually engage and retain players? Let's do this really quickly before we have Fred come up and talk about value. Who here has played Clash Royale? I want all the hands to go up. Yeah, awesome. An amazing game. It's topical because, it just launched this year and everybody loves this game. Let's talk about the way that they engage players. Now, a game shouldn't engage players the same way for every single player. A game should have very different ways to engage players, to engage your more casual players, the players that play maybe once or twice a day, the ridiculously core players, the guy that's glued to his phone or has a battery pack walking around, playing Pokemon Go because he can't put it down, and everything else in between. You want your game to engage players in every different way, in every different cadence, every different kind of play style. So let's look at how Clash does it. Here on the left, you see the card shop. This card shop refreshes once every 24 hours. I know that because I get a little notification and I go to the card shop every 24 hours to see what they've been serving me. And it's personalized to me. It's different to everybody. And I want to see what's there because I might be looking for that rare lumberjack card. And it comes up and I want to buy it. So on the minimum, on a daily basis, I'm like, well, I got to check what cards are new. Absolutely. So I'm encouraged to log in every day. Look at the right. This is the battle screen. You got this on-demand mode. I can battle randomly a player right now as many times as I want. So it's on demand. It is for the most core players, for the most casual player. It is on demand. It is not on a clock. But there's other things here on the screen that are actually on clocks. There's a couple of things. There's a chest going on over here that's going to open in 2 hours and 21 minutes. There's a free chest that's going to be available in 3 hours and 21 minutes. So you can kind of see what they're doing here. You've got this daily engagement mechanic. You've got this on-demand mechanic. You've got these chests opening at different times. Over here, you've got tournaments that start and end in various different cadences. And on the far right here, you've got this every 2 weeks, the season is up, and you earn rewards for yourself and for your clan. You can see kind of what Clash is doing here, what Supercell is doing. They're trying to engage players in every way possible that they want to engage with the game, to the most casual, to everything in between, all the way up to the most core. Thank you very much. I'm going to bring Fred Easy up here to talk about value. Masterclass in LTV. Everybody welcome Fred Easy from Space Ape. Awesome.
Thank you, Adam. Hi, my name's Fred Easy. I head up the analytics team at Space Ape Games. I should put my slide on. OK. So we're a mid-core studio based just around the corner from here in Soho. We've got 3 live games. They're all in the build and battle genre. So if you've played Clash of Clans, any of those kind of games, you build a base, you attack other people, they attack you. Those are the types of games that we make. And over the years, we've had a challenge trying to monetize players in those games. And today I'm going to talk about the past, how we used to do it, I'm going to talk about the present, how we're doing things now, and we're going to take a look at the future, as Matteo alluded to, and what we're going to be doing pretty soon in terms of how we're going to monetize people. So let's cast our minds back to 2013, and we're launching our first game. It's Samurai Siege. It was a fast follow on Clash of Clans with some additional improvements added on. And this screen here is showing you the shop in the game. So this is how users buy currency in the game. They go to the shop, and there's a range of different prices they can buy. And if you spend more in the shop, if you're buying one of these higher value ones, you get more in-game currency back. You're getting a better bang for your buck, in effect. So we're trying to encourage people to spend a bit more. So with the shop, what are the pros and cons of this? So there's a range of prices. So players will generally be able to buy a price that they're willing to spend at, which is good. Also, there's the bulk discount that I mentioned, which is going to encourage players to maybe move up a notch in terms of how much they wanted to spend, so it's going to upsell. One downside, as we found with this system, players will tend to stick around the same sort of transaction size. So if they come in, they spend $20, they tend to stay around that kind of level, generally. The other really bad thing about the shop is it's kind of tucked away. If you go into the game and you want to spend, it's 2 or 3 clicks deep. You've got to click on one thing to bring up a menu, then there's another click to get to the shop, then you've got to click to get to the buy screen. It's a lot of clicks. It's quite high friction. So you're going to lose some spends there, basically. So this system is actually very popular. Like, it's still used today by a lot of really big games. Clash Royale, as we've just seen, Pokemon Go. These are #1 grossing games. And this is pretty much how those guys do it. Like, this way works really well. So there's no shame in having a setup like this. But we want to try to improve this. So one thing we added to Samurai Siege was time-limited bundles. So we're going forward in time here. It's the Iron Age. And with these bundles, what would happen is the player would log into the game, and this would pop up. It's a special offer. Now, you've only got so long to purchase this. There'll be a countdown. So maybe there's 5 hours, 24 hours, something like that. So there's pressure there. You've got to buy it now, or it's going to go away and it's gone. And it's really good value. So if we look at this bundle here in Samurai Siege, you're getting some diamonds, which is the in-game currency. You can only get that through spending dollars, well, high amounts of it anyway. We've got Onyx, which is another currency, which is very valuable to the players. It lets them buy camps, which give them troops. And we've also got the Sun Dragon's Tower, which is an actual camp that they can deploy in the game. Quite a powerful thing. Each of these separate things is worth about £10, something like that. £10 to the diamonds, £10 to the Onyx, £10 to the Sun Dragon Tower. So overall, they're getting about £30 of value for £19. So it's a pretty great deal. This is a term that we call EV, or estimated value. And that's a percentage, in this case, about 150 to 200%, of how much better it is than what you'd get from spending in the store. So with this kind of deal, you've got a lot of good things which are going to make the player want to buy it. You've got the timer ticking down, you've got the great value, you've got some nice art there. All of these things are going to help. So we found when we launched this that we had a big uptick in conversion and spend. So it was a great way to try and convert people. A couple of dangers with these things. One is that players can become trained to wait for these. So what's the point of buying in the shop if you know that one of these is going to spawn tomorrow? You might as well wait, get your value. So you'll tend to see that shop spend is cannibalized a bit. The other thing you'll see as well is content burn. You're giving away more for the same price. So you're going to burn for your content more quickly than if players are just buying from the shop. So there's that to think about as well. And one other thing, and this is probably the most important thing I'll say about these, they work really well when you combine them with a live event. By a live event, what I mean is a special event in the game. So for these builder battler games, we might have a special event running on the weekend where you'll be competing against other alliances as part of your own clan, trying to beat each other. And if you theme this offer with the event, you'll see a real big surge in your sales. People love that, basically. They want to spend anyway because it's an event. You're showing them a great bundle. A lot of people are going to spend at that point. So just to illustrate that, this is a graph of revenue over time for Rival Kingdoms, which is the second game we launched. And what you'll see is these 2 peaks in revenue that I've highlighted here and here, those are events which were teamed up with a great bundle. Great event, great bundle, and you can see that there's a real surge in revenue during there. One thing I'll say is you don't want to do that every week, because otherwise you're just going to fatigue players and you won't have as a strong an effect. But it's something we try and do, something like once a month in our games, is we'll have one of these great bundles, one of these great events, and we'll always see like a big surge in sales as a result. So that's time-limited bundles. That's how we used to do things. We still run a lot of these things in our games as well. These haven't gone away, but we've added stuff over time. So let's take up to the present day, Steam Age. Timeline bundles. So we've got a screenshot here. This is Transformers Earth Wars, which is the most recent game that we've launched. This is an example of one of the bundles, which is popping. We've got some nice Transformer art on there. What is a timeline bundle? No one said, but I'm going to answer that question. Here are some timelines. So each row on this table represents a timeline. Now, it's a little bit blurred, but on the left here, there's different spend segments, in effect. So we've got non-spender, low spender, mid-spender, high spender, all the way up to high spender 2, which is the really big one. What this represents is what a player's maximum spend has been into the game up to that point. So if you come in and you're playing for the first time, you're going to be a non-spender. If you go in to shop, for example, you spend $20, now we're going to class you as a mid-spender. And what will happen is, with this system, we've got a series of bundles that we've worked out that we think that will be appealing to users in those segments. And what will happen is each time they log in each day, they're going to get shown one of these bundles. They might buy it, they might not. They might buy it and move up to a higher timeline. The next day they're going to log in, they're going to see another one of these bundles, a different one. And sometimes at these higher levels, we'll even go faster than one a day. You might see a couple in a day. And this is much more effective than the other version I was showing you for a number of reasons. So why does this work better? It's better at upselling than a single price point bundle. With a single price point bundle, you've got this tension where you've got to decide what price to put up. You know, so for those time-limited bundles, if you're the guy running the game, you're like, I'm going to run a $10 bundle this weekend. With a $10 bundle, a lot of people will buy it because it's quite low price, so a lot of people can afford it. But there's some guys who wanted to spend $50. You know, the guys love the game, they want to play all weekend, they want a $50 bundle, and they're going to buy your $10 one. So you left money on the table there. And the flip side is if you run the $40 bundle with the $50 bundle, there's a lot of guys who don't want to spend that much in a mobile game. Most people, in fact. And they're not going to buy it. So again, you're leaving money on the table. With this system, you're showing the correct bundle to the correct user. The non-spender is seeing the low-value ones, the high spender is seeing the high value. So it's tailored to what the customer wants. The other thing as well, there's no curation required after the initial setup. So obviously, there's quite a lot of work in setting up these timelines. Once it's done, it's done. With the other type I was showing you, those time-limited ones, every week you'll have new art created, you've got to decide what bundle you're going to run, all that kind of stuff. With this, it's essentially automatic, it's automated once it's set up, so no real intervention needed. What we found with this system is the games make 2 to 3 more in terms of lifetime value when you add this. We actually ran a split test in Transformers during the soft launch where we had this system versus players not having the system, and yeah, it was 2 to 3x increase in lifetime value. This is tried and tested for us, really works. The other thing as well is, this isn't instead of the other stuff that I showed you, the shop and the time-limited bundle. You can have all 3 in your game, and in fact, we have all 3 in our game, and they serve different purposes. The shop's there for the really intense players who want to spend the whole time. They're not going to wait for a special offer. They want their stuff now. They can go to the shop they're going to spend. We've got these timeline bundles, where players will log in, almost like a kind of daily thing with a login, see the bundle, think, that's a good one, yeah, I'm going to buy that one. And then we've also got the time-limited bundles, which we'll set up with those events, as I was saying, where they'll tie in with the event, and we'll get those big spikes on the weekends, and that kind of thing. The dangers with these ones is pretty much the same as the time-limited bundles. You've got that problem about content burn. You've got the problem about cannibalization from the shop. But net overall, you're still going to make a lot more money using the system despite those drawbacks. OK, so this is one thing I'll just mention in passing quickly. This is a correlation matrix, for people who know what that is. We're basically, at the moment, we target these things based on the user's max spend. So if you've spent $20 ever, you'll go into that middle spender bracket. Even if you normally spend 5, you go 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, then 20. At that point, you go into the middle spender bracket, and that's where you're going to stay. We did a quick thing where we looked at the correlation between what your next spend amount is going to be, so this far left column, and all of these other spend metrics which we know about the user. So we've got the mean of all your previous spends, we've got the median, the mode, for people who know what that is, the max, the lifetime sum of all of them. And actually, the one which correlated the best although it wasn't like a winner by miles, was the mean spend. So that's one of the things which we're going to be doing in the short term to improve these, is we're going to switch away from max spend, and we're going to move on to mean spend, because we think that'll be better at guessing how much people want to spend. Okay, so we've talked about the present and our games. Now we're going to have a little look to the future. So, the Rocket Age. Targeted bundles. So, imagine that we've got all these different bundles that you can buy in the game. So, there's some for $5, some for $1, $10. There's different types. You know, I've got a battle bundle, which will help you battle in the game. I might have a builder bundle, which is good for building stuff in the game. All that kind of stuff. So, what we'd like to do, and we've actually started work on this already, is we're going to develop a machine learning approach where we'll look at a user's purchase history, we'll run it through a machine learning algorithm, work out what price fits them really well, and that's going to narrow down what bundles we want to show them. So if you think you want to spend $20, you can chuck away the 20s, the 1s, the 5s. There's now going to be a subset of these $20 bundles which we know that you want to buy. Then we look at the different types. So something like a resource bundle where you're buying currency in the game, if the player is running low on currency, they're probably going to be more likely to buy that. With a battle bundle, if you're running an event where you need to battle a load, they're probably going to be more likely to want that at that point in time. So we're then going to factor that in as well in deciding which bundle to show you. And we're going to choose the one which we think you've got the highest chance to buy relative to its price. So if you've got a 10% chance of buying the $100 bundle, that's better than if you've got a 20% chance of buying the $20 bundle, if that makes sense. So we're going to try and serve you the one we think we're going to make the most revenue. So that's the plan with this. We've actually, as I mentioned, we started building this. We tried a few different approaches. At the moment, we're trying a nearest neighbors model, which is working pretty well for guessing the price. And we think that this is really going to take things to the next level in terms of how well this system works. One last thing I'll add on this is that you should include a random element when you're deciding which bundle to show. I know that sounds a bit weird, because you're like, why put all this effort into deciding what price point we're going to show and like which type's going to sell better. Sometimes you're going to throw in a random element. The reason is, I found with using these types of systems in the past, is if you just leave it completely to the algorithm, sometimes it will just keep showing the guy the same bundle, which is kind of weird and not a good customer experience. So it's good to have a random element, some kind of random element, just so there's some variety and some freshness that still comes into what you're rotating and showing to the user. Okay, so that's the Rocket Age. And now I'm going to hand over to Matteo, who's going to talk about some of the Google tools which can help you do this kind of stuff.
So that's hard to follow. I mean, that's really interesting stuff. And as you can see, it's not easy stuff. So that's why I'm here. I'm just, relax. You don't have to be in the Rocket Age. You can start with some simple tools. And hopefully the tools that we built will get you started not at the Stone Age, but maybe the Steam Age. So you already have a way to target users and optimize your LTV without having all this technology and resources already invested in it. So let's start with the first tool that I think is very relevant here when it comes to optimizing your game design and engaging different types of users. This is the time series page in your developer console. You get this as part of Google Play Game Services. And what it does, it shows, it's a very clear picture. Maybe clear is not the right word, because at the beginning it looks a bit confusing, but it gives you a very clear picture of how players interact with your game. Every symbol here has a meaning. Every symbol is a different action that a user has taken in your game. So a symbol represents a purchase event, another symbol represents completing a level or an achievement. And you see the sequence of actions that every user has taken. This is a sample of your users. It's up to 100. And you can see how they interact. The first thing you can do with this report is see what action lead to what matters to you. For example, what have they done before they made their first purchase? Or what have they done before churning? And so you can optimize your game overall and see if you have any issues. But where it becomes even more powerful and relevant to this talk is that you can actually filter this report by different types of users. So for example, users that have made a purchase and users that haven't made a purchase, or that have spent some amount and users that have spent more. And you can start understanding the differences. What really are the different behaviors, what they're looking for in your game, depending on what type of category of users they are. So it's a very good way to get some insights and design your game based on what type of users you have, and not just one size fits all. And the same similar reports, similar insights you can get from the funnel report, which is also available in Developer Console for free if you integrate Google Play Game Services. And again, we take this data based on them signing in through their Google account, so you should make it easy for them to do that. And what it does, it shows you how users go through different steps of a funnel that you create. So you can set any event you want. It could be steps in a tutorial, it could be levels in your game, it could be series of random events that matter to you as a sequence in your game. And you can see how they progress through each of this step and where they leave. So that is actually, again, very powerful overall for your game to find friction points and roadblocks that you can improve and get rid of. But again, this is much more useful when you start filtering it by different types of users, because you can understand what users have problems in your game and what types of problems they have depending on which group they belong to. As you see here, it's highlighted. The different types of audiences that you can filter for in this case are if they spent less than $3, if they spent more than $10, if they haven't spent at all. And you can see what are the key differences between them. So this is already on itself quite impactful way to rethink your game. This is an example from Max Games, who recently used this report to improve the game Stick Wars Legacy. And they reduced churn in level 6 by 40% just by using these insights. But again, the important thing here is that these tools give you a very simple way to understand what are the differences in your users, what are they looking for, and what are the most important types of users you want to optimize your game for. So you can apply the key principles that Adam talked about. What are the things that they want to look for, and how can we please as many users as possible, keeping one game and one experience. But when it comes to target them, you need much more detailed information about every user and not just a sample of users. And that's where Player Stats API comes into play. You can integrate this for free again, and it's quite simple, I've been told. And you get a lot of information about your users. Not only basic stats that you normally expect from this kind of APIs, like session and spend percentile and average session length and number of sessions or days since last played, all very important information to understand what type of user that user is. But also you get predictive analytics. This is super cool. This is a probability from 0 to 1 for the user to spend and a probability from 0 to 1 to churn. We even recently introduced 2 more granular metrics, same predictive analytics, so the probability to become an high spender and to spend in the next 28 days. And what is really cool about this is that this information is not just calculated based on the behavior of your players in your game, but your players on other games. So you get the power of our machine learning and the information that we get by them signing in all these games, and you can use it to better target them. What I mean by better target them is very clear in this simple example, but I think it's very powerful. This is Invent Venture, and they use the Player Stats API to make sure that as they grew their rewarded ads revenues, they didn't cannibalize their in-app purchase revenues. So what they did is that they showed reward ads only to the users that were less likely to spend, and they didn't show them to the users that were actually likely to spend. So in a way, they tried to monetize different users based on their purchase behavior and their propensity to spend. Again, without having to do much on the analytics side, because they just got an input from the Player Stats API. And that input was based not only on those player behavior in their game, but also on all the other games that they've played that had Google Play Game Services. But that's just an example. You got some ideas from Fred's talk on how you can actually start thinking about different types of users and target them. Here are some other ideas just how to use this data. You can, for example, target high session length and frequency, so basically the most avid players on your game with a reward, and you can get the information about them, again, through the player stats API. You can also target users that are at high risk of churn with some time-limited special item that they can get if they get back to your game as soon as possible. You can reach them with a notification, you know who they are because they have a high probability to churn, and you get that from the player stats API. You can then target users that are more likely to spend with a special offer just to make sure that you convert them and customize that bundle or that offer to be a bigger one, make a bigger value with a higher price point for the ones that are likely to become high spenders. So you get the idea. Again, most of the ideas will come from Fred, part of the presentation, but now you have the tools to start without having to do much in terms of analytics and understanding users. So the sky's the limit here, but I want to leave you with a last very basic concept that I saw many developers, even the ones that are getting very advanced in this, sometimes they oversee this and forget about it. The biggest difference between users is still where they're based. Country matters a lot. I know it sounds intuitive, but sometimes with machine learning and analytics and all that, we forget about the basics. And especially when it comes to pricing, you need to make sure that your price is relevant for the country where the user is based. And if you do A/B testing for your pricing, you should do it at country level. And we think that this is a very important part of monetizing, and that's why we've been also addressing this with introducing new minimum prices for some currencies and some markets that have different, higher price elasticity, let's say, and different purchasing power. And these are some of the big ones. In total, we introduced this for 12 countries, both in EMEA and Asia. So check it out on the developer console. You have access now to a much lower price that you can use in those markets where conversion is more difficult, but you can still extrapolate value from that. So thank you very much.